Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the DFS Report. It is Monday, February the 24th. Zach, it feels like the scene from The Hangover now. It's like we are back. We are back. It is
Yeah, we
a
sure
week.
are, man. It's been a couple of weeks since we've done an NHL slate. We had some of those Four Nations ones. I had quite a bit of fun with some of those slates, but yeah, it feels good to kind of get back into the swing of things. Taking it easy on us tonight with this little two gamer though. Then we're loading up for a big one tomorrow, so should be good. Happy to be back at it, man.
Yeah, shout out to the NHL. I usually get on them for these two-game slates, but to ease us back in the swing of things today was kind of nice. I would have still appreciated like at least a 3-game, maybe a 4-game slate, but yeah, kind of a gross week ahead in terms of the overall schedule here. We got a 2-gamer tonight, 12-gamer tomorrow, 3, 12, 3. So a couple massive slates in there this week. But a couple small ones as well. Okay, before we get into the meat and potatoes of today's show, we got a 2-game slate, as we mentioned, 7:30 start, Winnipeg, San Jose, LA, and Vegas. Just want to let you guys know, we're still working out some of the bugs on it, but I've been kind of talking about the automated charts throughout the season, and they're live right now, but we're still working out some bugs. So for the next few days, we're going to continue to release the charts on Google Sheets as we did again today. But when I tell you that they're live and ready to rock, you'll be able to find them under tools. Give you a quick preview here. So we've got, today's games as we do on the charts. We've got the line stack rankings. We've got the matchups. We've got the line stats. We've got the projections. We've got the goalies. So we've got everything. You'll be able to check it out first thing in the morning if you like. The projections will be the most accurate thing early in the morning, and then the charts themselves will still be tweaked as the day progresses. So you're still going to probably want to wait until like 3 p.m. Eastern, like when the charts are normally posted for the, fully accurate version. But you can check this out throughout the day. But again, still working out some bugs right now, mostly with the matchup score and stuff being automated. So really excited about that. Takes a lot off my plate. But again, like I said, probably Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday will still be Google Sheets. And then we're hoping for that big slate on Thursday. We can really ramp up the fully automated version. So excited for that. And it should be, a lot easier for you guys as well. So let's get into tonight's slate. Zach, we've got the Winnipeg Jets. I think the biggest favorites of the season thus far. I don't know for certain, but minus 475 has got to be one of the biggest favorites of the season as they host the San Jose Sharks, which 1.9 implied total. I mean, that is for sure the lowest of the season. We got the Sharks coming in on a second half of a back-to-back. You've got the Jets rested a little bit. Connor Hellebuyck getting the start. A lot of things working against the San Jose Sharks. In terms of the matchups for this one, obviously pretty good stuff for the Winnipeg Jets side of things. Mediocre matchups for the top 6 of the San Jose Sharks. Going to see a lot of the Mark Scheifele top line for the Jets going up against the second line for the Sharks, the Alex Wenberg line. Going to see a lot of Adam Lowry against the Macklin Celebrini line. Also going to see a fair amount of Vladislav Nemestikov as well. So overall, the Nemestikov line's got the best matchup of the top 9 for the Jets, but splitting hairs there. And I've always said on these 3-game slates or 2-game slates, I take the matchup scores with a grain of salt a little bit more than normal, just because there's not a whole lot to compare it to. But really good matchups, obviously, on the Winnipeg side of things tonight. Not great matchups on the Sharks side of things, but we'll start with the Jets here. Obviously this top line for the Winnipeg Jets has been really, really solid throughout the course of the season. They've been heavily reliant, though, at times on the power play. They've done a nice job scoring at 5v5 without question, but they've really made hay on the power play this year. It's been, we've seen some of these teams get really hot for, a couple weeks or whatever on the power play. The Jets seemingly have been dominant with the man advantage the entirety of the season. They never seem to slow down. They always seem to be ranked in the top couple on the DFS charts. So that top line, good 5v5 numbers, not spectacular, but good. Still scoring at 3.5 goals for per 60. But as you see here, no surprise. The number 1 matchup on the power play tonight. That's a top power play unit that sees a lot of ice time. They're the number 2 ranked power play over the last 10 games, going up against the worst penalty kill over their last. The Jets also projected for the most power plays tonight, as the Sharks are the most undisciplined team on the slate. So a lot to like, obviously, about Winnipeg 1, who grade out number 1 overall. They have the number 1 5v5 score. They've got far and away the best power play score as well. Zach, the pricing's a little funny tonight. We talked about it a little bit before the break, how DraftKings was changing up the way they're pricing people, and it makes for kind of some interesting pricing, interesting value on the slate or lack of value. We talked about it in our DFO Discord a little bit. The second line for the Jets is super, super expensive tonight. You got Ehlers up at $7K, Perfetti up at $6,100, and it makes it very easy to just be like, I'm just going to play Winnipeg 1. Why would I pay up for Winnipeg 2? So, obviously to me, Winnipeg 1's by far the better play, but they're coming in 3 times the ownership, which makes Winnipeg 2 a pretty interesting pivot option tonight.
Yeah, it absolutely does, Brock. And there's more than enough reason to to like the way this line looks, even despite the pricing here. The ownership drop off is, as you mentioned, pretty significant. You're paying to get yourself different here by playing Winnipeg 2. Nick Ehlers, if you're playing Winnipeg 2, that's the guy that you want. You got some exposure there on the top power play unit. His last 20 games, he's been great. 3.5 points per hour, 8.8 shots on goal per hour of ice time, shooting the puck a lot, great volume there. Cole Perfetti hasn't been terrible this season either. He's found some ways, to continue to be productive here as well. So, if I'm 20 maxing tonight, I have no issue getting to, 15, 20% here of Winnipeg 2. And what is a really favorable matchup for this Winnipeg side as a whole. I mean, we've seen the struggles that the San Jose Sharks have had this season, but, I also think in the same breath too, like, this top line is really rolling on the San Jose side of things. Pretty interesting game earlier this season in December. The Jets won 4-3 with Connor Hellebuck in the crease. So, San Jose found a way to get a couple of goals on the board there. So, but back to this Winnipeg side before we dive into the Sharks a little bit more later. There's a lot of reason to like this Winnipeg side, and I'm probably even comfortable dipping down to this third line as well. Great matchup here tonight. The line stats are real solid for Niederreiter, Adam Lowry, and Mason Appleton as well.
Yeah, that third line's kind of similar to the third line of the Carolina Hurricanes. Not quite as dominant offensively, but they're more in play on these small slates because they have the ability to score. They've been solid this year, 2.8 goals, 4 per 60. They play plenty of ice time, and that's definitely a way to get different. And like if it was a 12-game slate, I would ignore them even in a good matchup here. But on these small slates, these are the lines that Niederreiter could easily go in and bang in 2 goals tonight, and that third line could be optimal. They grade out 7th best overall, just 11,600. One of the lowest owned lines on the slate, at least top 9 lines on the slate, just 10% average for the trio, but just 8% for Appleton, 9.7% for Adam Lowry. So, yeah, I don't mind getting to all bits and pieces of this Winnipeg Jets lineup tonight. I think the one way that I'm going to try to build is just, onslaught stacks and just kind of just different variations of this top 6, this top 9. Power play stacks, obviously getting Ehlers in the mix with Winnipeg 1, maybe leaving off, Velarde or Connor, or, Connor's 45% owned, so just leaving him off, it gets you different from half the field. So there's a lot of ways to kind of just get funky with it. On these 2-game slates, it's kind of the way you got to do it. And if things shake out the way that Vegas is expecting, there's going to be a lot of goals on this Winnipeg side of things, and it could come from a variety of different spots. So getting exposure to this entire top 9 seems like a good option tonight. As you mentioned, the underlying metrics for this entire top 9 pretty good. The second line, comes in a little bit lower, but still, obviously, you've got Ehlers in that top power play unit. Perfetti, Perfetti seems like he's had a pretty good season overall. The problem is he either just kind of has big games or does nothing, right? I just want to pull up. I feel like he's had some just monster performances this year. Yeah, he's got a 4-goal game, and he's got 3 3-point games, and 10 multi-point games overall. But he also has about 35 games with no points. So it's kind of boom or bust, which in a situation like this on a 2-game slate with his elevated salary and his lower ownership, this feels like a good spot to get to him and just hope, hey, good leverage spot. Hopefully it's one of those boom games. And if it's not, you're kind of just get what you expected.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what, Brock? I think this is a great spot for him here. Obviously the price tag is a bit of a shock at, $6,100, but he's been really, really on a bit of a run as of late. In his last 10 games played, 4 goals and 11 points. He's got points in 6 straight games as well. So he's finding ways to contribute all over the ice. There's not a ton of shot volume there, which is kind of the issue with Cole Perfetti. But, if he finds a way to get a couple of assists or a goal and an assist, he's going to pay off that salary pretty well here. And especially on a 2-game slate like this, just finding some small ways to get yourself different is a great way to go. And I think that's why he's a great play, even though he's $6,100 here tonight. So I'm definitely going to be getting there in the 20 max that I'm playing here tonight. I think this is a great spot to try and get yourself some leverage on the field.
Ehlers had 2 goals and 1 assist and 5 shots on goal in his only game against the Sharks so far this season as well. So he had success that night. And then Cole Perfetti, 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points, 8 shots on goal in 2 games against the Sharks this year. So Winnipeg too has had success against the Sharks so far. And yeah, I think that they're a really interesting pivot option tonight. Like, they're still drawing some ownership, but it's significantly lower than Winnipeg won. So definitely going to be getting to plenty of them tonight. On the San Jose side of things, you kind of mentioned it already. This top line's been really solid as of late. You got Eklund, Toffoli, Macklin, Celebrini. Celebrini alone, just an absolute stud, man. He's so good. Last night he had 11 shot attempts. He racks up like double-digit shot. I think he has double-digit shot attempts in 7 of his last 10 games or something like that, if I recall correctly. So he's just absolutely dynamite. The rest of this lineup leaves a lot to be desired. I have a hard time getting to the rest of this lineup. But Zetterlund's got pretty good shot volume. Will Smith's kind of coming into his own here in the second half of the season. I could maybe sprinkle in a little bit of that second line. Their matchup with the Scheifele line isn't too bad. It's above average for tonight's slate. That Scheifele line, they generate a lot, but they give up plenty as well. The problem is that second line just does nothing offensively. So you want to try to talk yourself into getting different with these depth lines of the Sharks. It just is so hard to get there when you look at these numbers. But then you look at the numbers of the top line, as I mentioned, they've been awesome. Super good numbers with Eklund, Toffoli, and Celebrini. And there's a lot to like here. I think that I'll probably, I don't know if I'll get to the field at 20%. I do have concerns about this matchup, obviously. They have a 1.9 implied total. They're going to see Adam Lowry and Vladislav Nemestikov's line all night long. Those two lines have given up 1.1 and 1.2 goals against per 60. Connor Hellebuck, I tweeted about it this morning. He's 19-2-2 with a 1.99 goals against average since I think December 5th. His last 23 starts, he has 19 wins and a sub 2 goals against average. Like, at 20%, I think that I'm probably going to come in a little bit under the field there, despite how good they've been. I think Celebrini as a one-off is fine. I think there's some decent options on the blue line. Jake Wallman looks good. Jack Thompson looks like a good value. Like, I'll probably have bits and pieces, but full stacking this line, I don't think I'll get up to that 15, 17, 20% mark. How about you?
Yeah, I think I agree with you in terms of the full stack here. I got a little concerned about playing a guy like, William Eklund. Like, he's had his struggles. There's not a ton of shot volume here for this guy. Tyler Toffoli at $5,100 feels like a better play to me. And he is drawing, 2.5% fewer ownership or less ownership, I should say, than William Eklund is right now. And Toffoli, he's been great as of late. Last 20 games played, 1.5 goals per hour of ice time, 1.4 individual expected goals. So he's generating a lot of high quality scoring chances as well here. And his shot volume is right up there with Macklin Celebrini, 10.6 per hour for Celebrini over his last 20, and Toffoli up there at 10.7 as well. So these are the two guys that I'm really going to be focusing on for my San Jose Sharks builds tonight. You mentioned Wallman and Jack Thompson on the blue line. I think they both look like great plays here tonight too. I think for me, like, the reason that I'm comfortable getting there on guys like Celebrini and Toffoli is that shot volume, right? Like, I think they're still going to find ways, to generate some looks. It might not be a ton, it may not be super high quality chances, but I mean, these guys are kind of showing that they're able to take advantage of some spots. It's a small 2-game slate like this. It feels like you have to have some exposure to this Sharks top line. Unless you're really trying to get yourself different or single entrying or something along those lines.
Yeah, $5,100 feels pretty nice for Toffoli. There's not a whole lot of really good value on tonight's slate, and Toffoli at that price tag feels solid. Like you said, he's been red hot. 6 goals, 6 assists, 12 points in his last 10 games, averaging 3.3 shots on goal per game during that stretch. And you said it earlier, the Sharks have had some success against the Jets so far this season. Toffoli certainly has as well. 2 goals, 2 assists, 4 points in 2 games against the Jets. So they've, both the Celebrini, he had a solid game. He had 6 shots on goal in his first game against the Jets. So while it looks like it could be a lower scoring game just based on what Vegas is projecting here, the depth pieces of the Jets have scored against the Sharks, and the Sharks' top guys have had success against the Jets. It could be a higher scoring game, and it could be the highest scoring of the two tonight. So I don't mind getting to that top line, obviously. Again, probably not full stacking a whole lot. Celebrini to fully grade out easily as the top 2 values on the Sharks side of things. Do you have any more interest in the depth here of the Sharks than I do?
I think Fabian Zetterlund at 4K is a fine play.
Mhm.
Projecting for only 8.5% right now. This is another guy who's got a fairly solid floor, and thanks to his shot volume, 9 shots on goal per hour of ice time over his last 20 games. So, I'm comfortable mixing him in. Maybe like a sprinkle of Will Smith here or there as well. I'm okay with that. The rest of it is pretty bleak. I just don't really see a way for much of these other guys to really generate a whole lot here tonight.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I bet the Fabian Zetterlund shot prop tonight. His shot volume solid. I wish he was out there playing like 17 minutes a night. Right? It's just he's so frequently around 14 minutes, but at 4K, I think it's fine. Will Smith's cooled off a little bit with just 1 assist in his last 4 games, but since January 20th, 2 goals, 8 points in his last 10 games. Shot volume still leaves a lot to be desired, but he's been solid. Okay, as I mentioned, the Jets' #1 power play rank overall tonight. The Sharks come in at number 3, but they have a pretty stiff matchup tonight going up against the 6th ranked penalty kill for the Winnipeg Jets. Obviously, they still got to beat Connor Hellebuck as well. Zach, any final thoughts on this game before we move on to game number 2?
No, I'll save the rest of my thoughts around this game for when we talk goaltenders.
There we go. Okay, we've got LA hosting the Vegas Golden Knights. Basically a toss-up here. Implied total 2.8 for the Kings, 2.9 for the Vegas Golden Knights. Matchups in this one, a little bit all over the place. Going to see a lot of Kopitar and a lot of Deneau going up against the Jack Eichel line. And then that's pretty much it. You're going to see a lot of fourth line against fourth line, but the second line, the Byfield line, probably going to see a mix of the bottom 9 here. Overall, best matchup goes to LA1, followed by LA3 and LA2, bringing up the rear. So, again, I'm not putting a ton of stock in matchup scores tonight. The Kings are pretty much great defensively, no matter who's on the ice. So, Vegas side of things, it's going to be a tough matchup pretty much all night long. The Vegas side of things, obviously, the Eichel line just plays like pond hockey when they've got Olofsson and Pavel Dorofeyev up there. Whenever Mark Stone's on that line, the defensive numbers seem to drop off pretty steady. And the offensive numbers, though, really, really strong. Defensive numbers, not so much. So it could be a bit of a track meet there. Looks like that bodes well for both the Kopitar and the Deneau line. Deneau's line has picked things up as of late, right? We talked about them being fairly quiet for the most part. Deneau specifically has been a little bit better as of late, which is good news if you're looking for a cheap center tonight. He comes into the night with 1 goal and 6 assists, 7 points in his last 5 games, averaging 2 shots per game during that time. So it's not incredible numbers, but it's a lot better than what we've seen from him most of the season. Up to $4,800. Trevor Moore, 5K. Warren Fogle, 4,500. You get a decent floor from this line with Moore and Fogle. The matchup for them is pretty good. But even despite having the worst matchup of the 3, I still really like what you get from LA2 tonight. I've been playing, well, I guess I shouldn't be playing them a lot lately because we haven't played in forever, but going into the break, I was playing LA2 every single night. Really like what you're getting from Kevin Fiala as of late. He's been unbelievable. And then Alex Laferriere has averaged 4.6 shots on goal in his last 5 games. So if he can kind of continue that shot volume trend, Laferriere is just still one of the more underrated young players in the league. He just continues to get better and better. And I really like what we've seen from that line as of late. Quentin Byfield as well, $5,900. That's my preferred line. It has been as of late. We always talk about the Kings. It's hard to narrow down which line to play, but this line certainly feels like the best offensive line that they got and the one that's got the best opportunity to go out and have a big game as a full stack. Before I go to you, Zach, Kevin Fiala's last 13 games, 8 goals, 7 assists, 15 points, 48 shots on goal. So between Laferriere and Fiala, you get a tremendous floor. Byfield, obviously, plenty of upside as well. I love LA2 tonight at just 15.9% on.
Yep, so do I, man. I'm firing up a ton of them. They're the line that I'm going to be the most exposed to, I think, from this Kings side of things here. Again, we talk about the floors that you're getting from Kevin Fiala and Alex Laferriere, as you kind of highlighted there, and it just makes the most sense to me. I'm going to have some exposure to the top line, to the third line as well. I do like the Kings side of this game here a little bit more than the Vegas side. Probably going to be double the field here on LA2, probably, around 15% for these other 2 lines. LA2, though, man, I really think that they're the one to kind of plan to flag on tonight here. And I'm definitely going to be comfortable in doing so in what seems like a pretty good matchup for them here. I mean, it's kind of interesting when you look at the numbers this season. they've been the one, it feels like, that have been the most consistent offensively. And again, I think it comes back to the floors that you're getting from guys like Fiala and Laferriere. What are we going to see from this game as a whole tonight? I mean, well, these two teams have met twice before already this season. In the first game, Vegas had a 6-1 win. In game 2, LA had a 6-3 win. So there's clearly lots of offense to go around between these two teams. Just as it always is with the Kings, man, like, it's kind of difficult trying to figure out where to plant a flag and where that offense is going to come from consistently.
Yeah, like I think that with my Kings ownership, like, it's going to be spread out because it's just kind of it's the nature of the beast with them, especially on a 2-game slate. You don't want to really get left holding the bag, so to speak. Just like if one of these lines goes off, they're going to be optimal. And so you're gonna. I want to have exposure to all three because I think it's a pretty good spot. But I'll probably have, like, if you add my LA1 and LA3 ownership up, it'll probably be equal to my LA2 ownership. Like, I'll be double LA2 as the other two lines most likely. But yeah, sprinkling in the other two for sure. The matchups are good. The underlying metrics are good. Seen a little bit more out of Fogle, more into Noah as of late. Kopitar, it's kind of always the same story with him. He just seems to pick up points every night despite having no floor whatsoever. You can probably fairly comfortably leave Alex Turcotte off at $2,900. Like, you see here with their ownership, he's half the ownership of Kopitar and Kempe. I think that feels pretty normal, or pretty reasonable, excuse me. He just doesn't play enough. Like, yeah, he's on the top line, but he plays like 9 minutes a night. It's so hard to be super excited about that. Plus, they're running 11 forward, 7 defensemen. So there's going to be a lot of double shifting. You're going to probably see some Fiala up there, some Laferriere up there, some Turcotte up there. So, I'll probably play him a bit, but Kopitar, Kempe minis, Kempe one-offs is probably the route that I'll go more often than not. Any final thoughts on the Kings fours before we get to the Vegas side of things?
No, let's talk about these Golden Knights.
Yeah, so I'm in agreement with you. I don't love the Vegas side of things tonight, but obviously these underlying metrics for this top line of Vegas stick out really, really nicely. And then obviously the third line, Brandon Saad, Brett Howden, and Mark Stone. I didn't think that would be a line that would be superb offensively, but the underlying metrics have been super good as of late. I landed on Brett Howden in my DFO head-to-head lineup because he's one of the kind of rare, decent value options on tonight's slate. $3,200 center. Last 2 games, he's got 5 shots on goal in both of those games. He's played 16 and 17 minutes in both of those games, and he's got 3 assists in those 2 games. So, yeah, he looks okay as a value option here, especially if he's going to be playing big minutes next to Mark Stone and Brandon Saad. So that third line sticks out as a pretty good value option tonight. They're really not seeing all that much ownership. Saad at just 6.2, 8.5 for Brett Howden, and Stone at 16%. And Stone's price is really, everybody else's price around him seems to be coming up. His seems to be going down off that Eichel line at 5,500. So very affordable line here that I think is in a pretty good spot. Obviously a lot of people have been, me especially, in love with that that Hurdle Dorofeyev duo for good reason. They were just exceptional going into the break, and then obviously the Eichel line is going to just be out there more often than not. So I think that third line could get overlooked tonight. I think that they could be in a pretty reasonable spot tonight. The issue is obviously their matchup looks the bleakest of the 3, but I think just given the value and given what we've seen from a pretty reasonable floor from Howden and company, I don't mind getting down to that third line. But yeah, I think that Vegas will probably be third in the pecking order for me tonight.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's an interesting spot to get to. You're looking at pretty low ownership here for this line. Just 10% is a full stack. That's certainly a number that I think I'm going to be comfortable getting to. Maybe a little bit more exposure through some mini stacks or something like that. Brandon Saad, I think he's looked good here since coming over to Vegas. Brings with him some solid shot volume and all that sort of a thing as well. So, matchup score, obviously, it's pretty tough. But like you said, it's a small sample size here, right? And I think when you got a 2-game slate like this, I'm more comfortable ignoring, matchup score almost entirely in slates like these, and kind of just looking at what you're getting from the projection, from the value sort of a standpoint, because all it really takes is a goal from this third line to get yourself super different from the field. And all of a sudden, you're in a pretty nice spot here overall. Brandon Saad, they're pretty cheap to get to here, right? Like Brandon Saad, $3,500. Brett Howden, $3,200. Mark Stone, $5,500. Stone at $5,500. I don't feel the greatest about it still. Just not enough consistent volume from him from a shot perspective. But man, he just continues to find ways to put up points, right? 2.8 points per hour over his last 20 games played, 1.9 assists per hour. That's the highest of any Vegas forward. So, still on the top power play unit. So obviously can build your lineups with some correlation there as well. So yeah, kind of an interesting spot here for this Vegas side of things. And honestly, man, like I don't mind getting back to Vegas too at all either here, especially around Thomas Hertl and Pavel Doroflorev. 11 and a half shots on goal for Dorofeyev per hour over his last 20. Thomas Hertl 10.1. Matchup score be damned. These guys are giving you a real great floor right now.
Yeah, like there's not that many lines that I can look at and be like, you can full stack this line with Winnipeg 1 and feel pretty good about it. And Vegas 3 is kind of one of those spots where I'm like, you could do much worse than that line at $1,200. But yeah, Dorofeyev and Hertl, their price just hasn't changed for like weeks, even though they've been unbelievable. I don't know how much Lavoie I'm going to get to, but at 10% and $2,600, I think I could certainly mix them in. It's going to be interesting. Like you take a look at the line stats here. That line projected for a little bit less run than that third line. So this is kind of their third line. The Stone line seems to be more of the second line in terms of a minutes perspective. But Lavoie has been okay. Hasn't got on the board yet, but the shot volume, he's had a game with 4 shots, a game with 2 shots. In a spot with Hertl and Dorofeyev, who have been really solid. I mean, it's you can take a flyer on it. We've kind of just avoided talking about Vegas 1. What's your plan here? Like, to me, I think there's just better pay up spots, but given how cheap Olofsson and Barbashev are, it's so easy to kind of just stack up Jack Eichel in this one. And I think that's why I wouldn't be surprised if Vegas 2 and Vegas 3 see even lower ownership and more ownership on Vegas 1. It just seems to be way too cheap for this top line. And given how good these underlying metrics are, like if you told me that they're coming in at 15% or whatever, 18%, like I'd be like, okay, let's go double the field here because that's way too low. I think that they'll probably be higher than that. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a great question, man. I mean, I think, the number that they're at right now, 17.8%, is probably pretty fair and right around where I'm going to kind of land as a full stack for these 3 guys. Jack Eichel's still Jack Eichel. He's still a great player, still producing offense, 3.1 points per hour, 9.7 shots on goal per hour over his last 20. The problem with Barbashev and Olofsson is the floor just hasn't quite been there as of late. In hindsight, or I should say too, I suppose they've both had some success against the Kings in their career. Olofsson 3 goals and 6 points in 7 games played. Barbashev 5 goals and 12 points in 20 games. I think I'm probably comfortable getting double the field on a guy like Victor Olofsson, who's only projecting for like 12% and 18% for Barbashev. Probably be a little comfortable coming in a bit below that, but I'll certainly be getting to them too. Again, like it's pretty much going to be getting to all of the top 9 lines from basically everybody but the San Jose Sharks here on this slate in some way or another.
Just mixing everybody in, eh? Lottery ticket style.
Kind of think you have to on a slate like this, right? Especially if you're 20 maxing. So it's kind of hard. Like, I don't know. It doesn't feel like there's like one spot to really take a super hard stand on for me when it comes to the Golden Knights.
I think the one thing too is that we've talked about the Sharks finding some success against the Jets, those games being pretty high scoring. The Kings and Golden Knights, when you look at the game as a whole, it feels like a lower scoring game. And, but those games have both been high scoring so far. But like, it wouldn't surprise me one bit if both of these games are low scoring. You got a 5.5 over under in the Vegas game, and just a 6 over under in the San Jose game. Like, it wouldn't be shocking whatsoever if it's a 3-1 game and a 3-1 game. Like, and you don't need a whole lot to be optimal if the slate is that low scoring. So I agree. If that's the case where it does end up being a lower scoring slate, having your exposure spread out a little bit is a way to hopefully just catch the right one. But any final thoughts on either one of these forward groups before we move on to the Blue Liners and the Goaltenders?
No, I don't think so. And I think one thing we can talk about too with this slate is like maybe playing 3 defensemen is a way to go, getting a guy in your flex as well. It seems like there's some pretty solid value defensemen here on this slate.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of great value forwards to be to be fair. So yeah, the defenseman is definitely a route you could go. And speaking of defensemen, let's dive right into that market. Okay, so we talked about Jake Wallman being one of the best value options on slate. $5,300 looks like a really strong D play. But do not mind getting to Josh Morrissey either. Like we talked about how every single one of these Winnipeg Jets seem to be priced up except for Josh Morrissey for whatever reason. So fine, absolutely fine getting to him there. In terms of the values, I mean, Jack Thompson, I said, doesn't not in the lineup all the time, but when he is, he's been pretty successful. $2,600. I can definitely get talked into that. With Shea Theodore out, there becomes a little bit more value on this Vegas blue line as well. Braden McNabb and Alex Pietrangelo seem to be the two guys that saw the largest increase in minutes in the first game without Shea Theodore. So I think McNabb specifically makes a ton of sense if he's up around 22 minutes a night at $3,800. But you can go elsewhere too, right? Like, I mean, if you want to pay down, I think Nick Hague makes a lot of sense at $3,200. Going to be on that top pair with Alex Pietrangelo. He should play a bunch tonight. Caden Korzak, if you want to get even cheaper, $2,900. If you're looking to punt off here, those two guys, I think, definitely, if they keep playing more with Theodore out, they're going to see a price increase moving forward. But Alex Pietrangelo, dude, like $5,400. Pretty reasonable price tag. Played over 20, projected for over 25 minutes. The second highest on the entire slate. I think he makes a lot of sense as well. Anybody that really sticks out to you?
Yeah, I think for me, like I'm really in on Jake Wallman here tonight. $5,300 for him. Like this is a guy that I think you can play very comfortably in that flex slot. Over his last 20 games, 6.2 shots on goal per hour of ice time and 8.1 blocks per hour of ice time. Both marks are the highest of any defenseman on the slate here. So he is, to me, I think the strongest defensive play tonight. Graves out is a top value play as well here too. So I think for me, it's going to be a lot of Jake Wallman. I'm probably going to be over the field on him, even though he is coming in at 25% here. I like Pietrangelo a lot, $5,400. This is a guy who's had a lot of success against the Kings in his career in terms of putting up offense. I mean, 7 goals and 35 points in 46 games played for, a guy who's never really been like a premier offensive defenseman or anything like that. I think he looks to be in a really good spot here tonight too. Jack Thompson, you mentioned him at 2,600, looks like a really good value play. Really cheap guy down there. Joel Edmondson too at $2,800. That's a guy that can definitely hit the shot block bonus here tonight on this slate.
Yeah, I like Joel Edmondson. I've been talking about Edmondson for a few weeks now. Well, I guess again, not a few weeks, a few months now. It's been so long. But yeah, he's been a favorite value of mine. Noah Hannafin, 5K. I think similarly to Pietrangelo, obviously he's the guy that moves up to the top power play unit as well without Shea Theodore. Gets a little bit of an added boost there. $5,000. Probably not going to play quite as much as Pietrangelo at 5v5, but Hannafin makes a lot of sense at 5K as well. I did forget to talk about the power play for that game. The Vegas Golden Knights do have the second best power play advantage on the slate. The top power play unit projected for 78% of the usage as well, so a lot to like about Hannafin in that top unit with the second best power play advantage overall. The Kings, the worst advantage of the night. The power play has really been struggling as of late. Okay, let's get to our goalies tonight. No surprise, Connor Hellebuyck projected as the highest owned and the best goalie on the slate at 13.7, and then the ownership coming in at 37.7. $8,400. Again, probably not going to see a ton of volume. A third of that volume probably going to come off of the stick of Macklin Celebrini tonight. And then after that, it gets a little bit dicier, but Darcy Kemper seems to make a lot of sense. He's been one of the league's best goalies so far this year, just $7,400. In this game is a guy, I think I'm in full agreement with the projection. That's not always the case for me, but like this would be my exact order, my exact pecking order tonight. I think like Vanacek, I think makes a lot of sense as a leverage play and a guy that could see a ton of volume. I just don't think it's going to work out all that well, but again, if you want to make any some big leverage plays and fade the Jets tonight, Vanacek at 7K is the way to get there. I'll probably have a small stake in Vanacek. I think the chances of it working out are fairly slim. Like even if the Sharks win this game, I think it's probably going to have to be high scoring. Like I just don't see Vanacek necessarily going save for save with Connor Hellebuyck, but we shall see. Are you in agreement with me or any different thoughts?
Yeah, I think I agree with you for the most part. Obviously, a lot of reason to have interest in Connor Hellebuyck. I think I like Darcy Kemper a little more than I like Aiden Hill here in this spot tonight. I'm a little bit of a Darcy Kemper truther. I've played him a lot this year. He's been really great for me when I've mixed him in. The one thing that's interesting about Hellebuck too, 2 games played against the Sharks this season, he's given up 3 goals against in each of those games. So, when you look at Hellebuck's entire career against the Sharks, he's given up 3 or more goals in 10 of 21 games played. So, a lot of volume has kind of come his way in terms of the goals. So, obviously, again, we still don't know really if there's any big correlation between past performance for goaltenders. Something interesting nonetheless. I don't think it's a reason to have any less interest in him per se, but for me, I think just kind of solidifies some of my belief in playing guys like Celebrarini, Toffoli, and Wallman, and getting a little bit over the field on them tonight.
Well, if we want to go down the career statistics route, Darcy Kemper really good in his career against the Vegas Golden Knights. 28 save percentage, 235 goals against average in 18 games against the Vegas Golden Knights. Okay, let's get to our hat trick pick challenge. If you want to participate in today's hat trick pick challenge, all you got to do is drop your hat trick pick in the comment section of the video, not the live chat. If your player scores a hat trick, we'll get you a $25 gift card to Nation Gear. We will also give away a $50 gift card to Nation Gear at the end of the season, or at the end of the week. Every Friday, we're going to be doing that. But new rule, as I stated before the break, if there is a hat trick and nobody picks them, we will just raffle off the $25 gift card to anybody that submitted a hat trick pick. So even if you don't get it right, you still have a chance to potentially win a $25 gift card to Nation Gear. That's the You can pick up some DFO swag or any of the other swaggy items we got over there. If it's Oilers Nation, Leafs Nation, anything you want, it's all there. So without further ado, let's get to our hat trick pick challenge, and then we'll get to our DFO head-to-head, and we'll be on our way. Zach, it's been a while. I'll let you go first. Who do you want today?
Oh, that's very kind of you, Brock. Since you are going to let me go first, I'll leave all the big guys off the board, and I'll go off the board here tonight. Give me Pavel Dorofeyev to get ahead.
Wow.
Tons of shot volume there from him. Definitely a guy who could break this slate wide open.
Yeah, I like it. Speaking of tons of shot volume, I'm going to go off the board too. Give me Alex Laferriere at $4,800. Shot volume's been insane. I'll leave some of the big guns for the viewers. Kevin Fiala was my original thought, but you went off the board. I don't mind following suit there. It's always a little bit more fun, anyways. Maybe time to sprinkle some cash on a Laferriere Hattie tonight. What do you say?
Don't mind it.
Let's get to today's DFO head-to-head. We don't know who won the last head-to-head. It's been so long, so we're just going to say it was a tie. So we are still tied at 32-32. I'll go first to let you go first in the hat trick pick challenge. I've got the full stack of Scheifele, Connor, Velarde. I also mixed in Josh Morrissey for the power play correlation and Connor Hellebuck. I went with that Vegas 3 mini stack of Brett Howden and Brandon Saad. I just think that there's not a lot of value up front at forward on this slate, and I think that those two are kind of the two of the better options to save some money up front. And then I went with a Laferriere one-off, I guess a little mini stack, Laferriere and Joel Edmondson. So, yeah, pretty spread out there. And Zach, who you got?
Oh, you definitely have a little bit of overlay between us. No shocker there, given it is a 2-game slate.
Mm-hmm.
For me, obviously wanted to get some Winnipeg one into the mix there, so went with Mark Scheifele and Gabe Velarde. Talked about LA2 being a really nice play here tonight. So we got Kevin Fiala and Alex Laferriere. I wanted the mini stack of Jake Wallman and Macklin Celebrini, so that means I couldn't play Connor Hellebuck. Darcy Kemper, welcome to the team, buddy. And just given some of the restrictions that we kind of have here tonight on this slate, I do have a forward going up against my goaltender with Brett Howden at $3,200 there. So puts me right up to the salary cap limit, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do.
That's going to do it for this edition of the DFS report. Before we go, a couple of quick shout outs. Shout out to our friends at rotogrinders.com for providing projected ownership for tonight's show. Really, really helps the show. It's really leveled it up, and we appreciate them so much for that. If you want to get $20 off your first month of RotoGrinders Premium, you can do so by clicking the link in the description of the video on YouTube. Also in the description is the link to our DFO DFS Discord. It's a community that's growing every single day. We provide a little bit of extra content in there on the weekends and stuff, and we're just always chatting DFS. We're also, we got channels for different sports if that's your thing and you're just looking for a little bit of help. I know I leaned on some other people during the break because I never played really much NBA DFS. So I was like, hey, somebody help me out a little bit here. So we got a good community over there. We also provide all the late breaking news, lineup changes, injuries, all that stuff, and warm up so you don't have any holes in your lineup. And while you're there, smash the like button on YouTube as well. Helps promote the show, helps us grow, and helps us continue to bring all of this to you for 100% free. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Smash the like button. We'll see you guys back here same time, same place tomorrow. Until then, cheers.
Cheers.